Hey guys, it's the Drabble Geek here, and welcome back to Phoenix Wright, where we are about to go to court in the case of Recipe for Turnabout. Now, I'm not too sure where the beginning of this case is going to go. Um, we could bring up Viola, the tiger, and I guess Armstrong. I am very suspicious of him since I believe it was in the investigation yesterday that we discovered that he was alone with the body for some time. So, could be him, but let's just see where this goes. Good morning, Mr. Wright. Good morning, Maggie. So, what do you think is going to happen today, sir? Yesterday's session didn't go so well and ended on a giant mystery. That's true. And we still haven't solved a single part of it yet. Are you okay, Nick? Huh? Yeah, of course. I saw that. That little flash of doubt in your eyes. No, that wasn't doubt. That was, determination. The clenching of Maggie's fist fill you with determination. That was terrible, but we're going to go with that. Why don't I believe you? It's nearly time, Maggie. You better get going to the defendant's seat. Roger, don't let me down, Mr. Wright. I'm counting on you. Yeah, I was about to ask, was Maya going to ask me what happened? Hey, pal. Hey, Detective Gumshoe. Quit stressing Maggie out. She doesn't need that. How did she know she was stressed? I was watching through the doorway, not being creepy or anything. Oh. You look like you lost the case already. Show a bit of confidence, will you, pal? Here, maybe this'll help. Huh? Have you taken up aromatherapy too? Not in a million years, pal. Don't tell me you don't remember this thing. That is the bottle we took from Armstrong since it didn't look like his other stuff, I think. It's been a little bit. Come to think of it, it doesn't look like one of those aromatherapy bottles. This is a small bottle that turned up in the Tresbian's kitchen a couple days ago. Whoa, look at all these little bottles. Oh, they're aromatherapy oils. He's got so many they're overflowing onto the floor. Hey, wait a minute. There's one bottle that's different from all the others. Well, what do you know? It doesn't have a label either. And it doesn't smell. We finally got the analysis results back from the lab. So, what is it? Is it the poison? I'm afraid not, pal. It's medication. Medication? Yeah, for ears. Topical use only, apparently. For ears, you mean... Yeah, it's the medication Glenn Egg was using for his ruptured eardrum. What was Glenn Egg's ear medicine doing in the kitchen? Armstrong probably accidentally stole that. Well, he probably thought it was something else while he was stealing the fake winning ticket. Found covered in unidentified fingerprints in the kitchen. Or someone just hid the medicine. If we haven't identified the fingerprints. What about the unidentified fingerprints? Anything on that? Someone screwed up, so they only had time to analyze the contents of the bottle. Another hour and they might have gotten something on the prints, but... that's going to weaken its impact as a piece of evidence. Okay, pal, this is it. Make sure your defense is impregnable today. Got it? I don't think that was the word he was supposed to use. Today's trial. I'm going to expose that guy for what he's done, or my name isn't Phoenix Wright. You're right. It's Nick's Ewop now. Alright, so we're going into the courtroom. There's our lovely Godot hiding his shame. I don't know what he's doing. Court is now in session for the trial of Maggie Bird. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Ready and waiting as always, Your Honor. Very good. Then we'll get underway at once. Yesterday we heard the testimony of Mr. Victor Kudo. He claims to have witnessed the defendant putting a powder into the victim's coffee. However, the witness's testimony was plagued with a number of problems. The mark on the rim of the cup shows that the victim drank from it with his right hand. But according to the old man's testimony, he picked it up with his left hand. Thank you, Mr. Godot. Furthermore, according to the witness's account, the victim was listening to the radio with an earpiece in his left ear. Yet the victim's left eardrum was ruptured, which made him effectively deaf in that ear. It's amazing how many contradictions a single case can have, huh, Nick? What are you up to? Ha! Allow me to enlighten you, Your Honor. The world, you see, keeps turning, and we must turn with it. You've lost me already, Mr. Godot. Don't let the mysteries of yesterday mystify you today. Only losers think like that. You've got to change with the times. That's one of my rules. No one said anything, my dude. Are you implying that you've resolved these contradictions? You know the answers to these riddles? The old guy wasn't just throwing seed in here. He was throwing us off the scent. And today I'll prove it. Very well. Let the first witness take the stand. Okay, so it is Armstrong. And you are? Whoa, it froze on my end. Okay. Oh, bonjour, everyone. I am Jean Armstrong, the owner and head chef of La Tresbian restaurant. Enchanté. Forgive me for asking, witness, but are you a woman? Ooh la la, monsieur. As you can see, I am la pert and perky gentleman, no? On the day of the incident, you were in Tresbian's kitchen. Isn't that right? Was you, monsieur? Huh? Everything feels right. Is he hitting on Adele? Ha. Well, he's totally unfazed. Doesn't anything intimidate this guy? Very well. Your testimony, please, witness. Please tell the court what happened that day at Tresbian. We, volunteers. That looked like volunteers, but I don't think it was. When it all happened, there were 2 customers in my restaurant. Remember, I was experimenting with some new art decos that day, like having a large mirror between the tables, for example. We didn't find a table. Perhaps that is what that old man was looking at. The cup, the earpiece, and the glasses. He would have seen everything in reverse, non? A mirror? Un grand mirror. La most enormous mirror. I never saw a mirror. And suddenly, the mystery disappears. Like I said, the world keeps turning, so roll with it. Except a mirror wouldn't explain anything, since he wouldn't have been in the way of the mirror. He would have looked at the person that was directly across the room from him, not in the mirror. That still doesn't make any sense. That would explain the coffee cup and the earpiece conundrum. The mirror would have made everything appear back to front. What the heck? It's way too early in the morning for this to be happening to me. Yeah, the mirror thing still doesn't make any sense. Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. My cross-examination into this nonsense. Okay. Let's save it here so we can go back. When it happened, there were only 2 customers in my restaurant, which should have been Glenn and maybe a woman, according to Maggie, since she said there was a woman there. And who were the 2 customers exactly? Mas, of course, the young man who died. And the other, not so young, man. You're referring to yesterday's witness, I presume. What about the other man Maggie says she saw at the table? Or the woman? Something tells me Mr. Armstrong isn't planning to disclose his existence. Probably because he's scared of him. We need some hard evidence first before we can bring him up, don't we? Guess we'll just have to try a different approach for the time being. Well, wait, he said there were just 2 customers. Technically, Le Tiger is not a customer, so I guess technically he's not lying, but still. He was experimenting. You were experimenting with Art Deco? How come I've never heard about that before today? You are not familiar with the language of interior design, monsieur. Please stay on topic. Now, why didn't you tell the court about this before? But I did, just a few moments ago. Yeah, before that. Ahem. Excuse me, Mr. Armstrong. This deco you mentioned, are you referring to some sort of couture? No, Art Deco. It is the style design, Your Honor. He's talking about interior design, walls, ceilings, carpets, that kind of thing. Ah, yes, of course. That deco. I was trying to achieve a more effeminate look for my restaurant. I was planning the most bold remodeling of la decor. Like having a large mirror. Where did the mirror go? How big of a mirror are we talking about here? Boff. Something about 4 meters wide and, about 2 meters high. Let's see, if I meters 1 yard. Holy glass in a frame, that's huge. I was intending to install it on the ceiling eventually. That's just weird. The ceiling? Was there a mirror on the ceiling? I don't remember. Mas, none, but I decided not to go through with it in the end. What should I do? Should I ask more about the mirror? Where did the mirror go, Phoenix? If you really had such a large mirror in the restaurant, someone would have noticed it. But there's nothing about a mirror in Mr. Kudo or Maggie Bird's testimonies. But... Wait, is he trying to say that the other person that Maggie saw was actually Glenn's reflection? Is that what he's trying to do? You didn't ask, Trite. You have only yourself to blame for such sloppy work. What? A mirror was delivered to Tresbian the day before the incident. Really? As Mr. Armstrong testified, he was carrying out some design changes, and as it turned out, he didn't actually use the mirror in the end. This just doesn't add up, because that means he would have been in the room. Even if a mirror was delivered to Tresbian, it doesn't prove that it was in the restaurant on the day of the crime. If you want to doubt someone, try it. Look in the mirror. I'm sure the person looking back at you will be dubious enough. So the witness yesterday had seen the victim reflected in a mirror. Perhaps that was what he was looking at. Normally, I'd expect people to know the difference between a reflection and a real object. Normally? How does normality come into this? That's lame, Trite, even for you. But I agree. Huh? Are you trying to say that if something isn't normal, it isn't possible? Is that it? Where does that leave the pork-you-headed lawyer and the top-knot chick over there? And the ungodly cool guy with the mask over here? Well, Trite, that leaves us in a video game. Not the hair, not the top knot. Mr. Godot is correct. A lack of normality is no basis for discounting an argument. Bien, logic has won the day. The earpiece... A mirror doesn't explain a thing, but we're pretending it does. Everything? He would have seen everything in reverse? Oui. Hey, Nick, we should take a second think about what old Seedy said in his testimony. How did you phrase it again? The boy was wearing the earpiece on the same side as the green lens of his specs. No question, you can lock me up if I'm wrong. It was his left ear without a doubt. And then he used the same hand to pick up the cup, his left hand. If he saw everything described in a mirror, then everything he said on the left was actually on the right, huh? And that clears up all the problems with his testimony, I guess, or does it? Ha! It's kind of hard to believe everything's the fault of a mirror, but do you think old CD saw everything through a reflection? If he did, it wouldn't explain the contradictions in his testimony, but that just makes the situation worse for Maggie. There's gotta be something on that old man's testimony. We've just gotta dig deeper. I agree. Oops. So we've proven that he... Wait, the eyepiece. Do we have any information on the eyepiece? Okay, no, the eyepiece isn't. Let's check this. Okay, my thing is like, unless the eyepiece magically appeared on the victim's right side. Like here, he wore an HMD over the left eye. Left eardrum was ruptured. She also has it on the left side. I remember the cup would be on the right, he says. But no, like, everything being on... My question is, how am I exactly going to put this to him? When the incident occurred, I broke the vase at my seat. I'm sorry. The autopsy... I think the only thing we have is doing, hey, the victim doesn't look like that. The coffee cup, the earpiece, and the HMD. Let's think back over Mr. Kudo's testimony for a second, shall we? The boy was wearing the earpiece on the same side as the green lens of his specs. No question, you can lock me up if I'm wrong. It was his left ear without a doubt. So, to summarize, we were told both the HMD and the earpiece were on the victim's left side. Now, if Mr. Kudo saw all that in the reflection, as a reflection in a mirror, it means both the HMD and the earpiece were actually on the victim's right side. Exactamente. You see, Monsieur? Now that you think about it, it's not so hard, no? Unfortunately, that's where we run into a monumental contradiction with the facts. Mr. Kudo really did see everything in a mirror. Why is it that the HMD is now on the wrong side of his head? Order. Mr. Wright is correct. If the witness genuinely observed the victim reflected in a mirror, then we would expect the victim's earpiece to have been over his right eye. How bitter. Try it. You should have a taste of this bitterness. It'll calm you down in no time. Are we talking about your coffee or something completely different? You don't understand the way the witness thinks. How he thinks. Remember this, I presume? I broke the vase. Sorry, apology. Mr. Kudo's sworn testimony? Exactly. The old man has one very grievous habit, other than throwing seeds. The more of an impression something makes, the more muddled his mind makes it. And that's the most striking thing about Mr. Elk. Clearly, it's the victim's eyepiece. And that's my point. The old man strikes again. Mr. X HMD made a big impression on the old man. I saw the earpiece and those newfangled spectacles he was wearing. Oh yes, they were both on his left ear. Do you hear? His left ear. Ha. Well, trite. That's the worst but best impression of Kudo ever. Wow, I really thought he was old seedy for a minute there. Godot's good. Enough. I must agree that yesterday's witness was irresponsibly rash in much of his testimony. Bad luck, Nick. Looks like the boil of a contradiction you found is just a rash. A mirror can't be beaten by a handful of seeds, nor can it lie. So, what exactly was the old man looking at? Fill us in, Mr. Armstrong. Go on, tell the court. We're all ears. Wait, would the glasses even work on the right side of his head? That doesn't make sense. Oui, I can explain. Please, if you will look at the plans of the restaurant. Okay. Alors, is everyone sitting comfortably? The mirror, it was in the middle of the restaurant, dividing the two halves. Alright, so before Armstrong continues with his testimony, if our witness was sitting here, there's no way he would have been able to see the reflection of the victim. If the victim was sitting here, he wouldn't really be able to see the victim unless we try and assume it's like a double-way mirror and he was really looking at himself. Considering Victor's position supposedly at this table, none of that makes sense as far as the reflection goes, unless Victor wasn't sitting over here but was in fact sitting at this area behind the divide. But he said he was sitting here. Unless he got confused again and was really sitting in this upper left table. That kind of makes the most sense right now with how the testimony is. There is only one seat from which you would have seen an image of the victim, right? That was the seat at the table next to the victims. That was where the old man was sitting. After the terrible incident occurred, I moved the mirror so it was not in the way. But naturally, I did not touch anything else. I remember Victor saying he was not sitting there. I might be remembering it wrong, that's totally possible, but I don't know. I see no problems with the explanation we have just heard. From the table next to the victims, Mr. Kudo could have seen the victim in the mirror. What a naughty little coquette I am, confusing all the men like this. Don't worry about it. But that still doesn't explain everything being on the wrong side of his head. We can keep up, except for the guy breaking out in a cold sweat over there again. Ugh, I hate that guy. You said you didn't touch anything else apart from the mirror. Are you quite sure about that? Volunteers, of course. We know you touched something else. Very well, Mr. Wright. Your cross-examination, if you please. Am I going to bring up the lottery ticket that he stole, or the medication? Probably one of those. Alright, we would have split everything in half. Oops. So, run this by me again. The mirror was here, correct? We, really? Because I know if I were you, I wouldn't have put a mirror there. It would be in the way. Look who's talking, Drake. Huh? You're obstructing my view, among other things. But, this is my scene in the courtroom. Tresbian's charm is that it gives you the impression that you're the only customer. Temporarily placing a mirror in that spot would hardly be in the way. Unlike you, trite. I tell you, monsieur, the mirror was there, in the middle of the restaurant. Still doesn't explain stuff being on the wrong side of his head. There is only one seat from which you could have seen a image of the victim. Wait, only his left side would be closest, so that makes... Okay, everything on his left side versus his right side is still really wonky. And where would that be? Ooh la la, look how you lean towards me. I always attract the younger boys. Maybe I should keep you in suspense a little longer. Mr. Armstrong, tell the court what you know at once. I attract the older ones too, you know. And some. Shall I tease you too? No. Please don't. I'm already seeing a very hot someone, so I'm afraid you'll be waiting for a long time. I bet she has a mocha cream skin and cappuccino perfume. That's heteronormative, Maya. Check yourself. Bien, I will tell you, there was only one seat from which you could have seen. That was the seat at the table next to the victims. That was where the old man was sitting. So why can you only see the victim from that particular seat? Mas, monsieur, it is obvious, non? If you look at the plans, you will understand. The victim would have been reflected in the mirror like so. So you were sitting at the table next to him. You would see everything, non? So that's the old seat he was sitting in on that day, when the poisoning happened. The old man was sitting at a table next to the victim. Why does that seem kind of odd? Do I have... Unless I'm misremembering this completely, he was not sitting there. Right, so based on the crime scene photo, he could not have broken... He broke a vase on himself. That's not possible. I did not touch anything else. Yeah, he could not have been sitting there. I guess it's the crime scene photo. Yeah, that proves, based on... Yeah, he could not have been sitting there. This piece of evidence contradicts with the testimony we have heard, Your Honor. The crime photo? Yes, this photo clearly shows something that theoretically should not exist. What on earth do you mean by that, Mr. Wright? Should not exist. Ha, sounds like you're describing yourself, trite. You're not funny. Now then, if the defense would please clarify its statement. What is the something that should not exist in this photo? I'm sorry if you can hear all that noise outside. The vase should not be there. I think it's pretty obvious that this is what should not be in the picture. The vase. What possible connection does that have to do with this witness's testimony? Your Honor, I'm telling you that there should not have been... I'm telling you that there should have been no vase on this table, because it very clearly contradicts with this piece of evidence. Sorry, I broke the vase. There is one thing that was clearly demonstrated by yesterday's testimony. Mr. Kudo broke the vase that was sitting on the table where he was sitting, and yet, As the court can see, there is an unbroken vase on the table next to the victim. Why? Because Mr. Kudo was not, in fact, sitting at the table next to the victim at all. Don't be an idiot, Trite. That's impossible. The seat's the only one Kudo could have seen the victim's reflection from. Unless he didn't see the reflection, dum-dums. Exactly. There's only one conclusion we can draw from this contradiction. There was no mirror in Tresbian that day. No, you can make the conclusion that he was somewhere else. Your testimony, Mr. Armstrong, is an elaborate lie. No, you really can only prove that he saw the real dude, not that there was no mirror there. That makes no sense. Yes, he would have been lying about the mirror and the reflection, but still. Don't try to confuse the court, right? Obviously the witness cleaned up the vase while the police were taking their time getting to the scene, but he touched nothing, right? Unfortunately, Mr. Godot, that doesn't quite work for me. Mr. Armstrong already testified to the contrary. In his own words, I did not touch anything else except the mirror. Well, witness, what do you have to say for yourself? Sniffle. I was right. There was no mirror in the restaurant that day. In light of this revelation, we turn back to the original problem. Why did the victim have an earpiece and an ear in which he couldn't hear? Ha. You only get one shot in life. There's no turning back. Well, Maggie's getting a second chance. If you want to claim that the mirror wasn't there, Trite, then this problem is all yours. How do you explain what the old man saw? If I can answer this, then I'll be that much closer to the truth. I can feel it. Are you going to be okay? Can you really solve this contradiction, Nick? There's more than just this one contradiction, Maya. What do you mean? Remember what Maggie told us? There was another man at the victim's table, and there was a sample CD on the victim's table. It all flies in the face of Mr. Kudo's testimony. And I think I know the reason why nothing in this case is adding up. Because he wouldn't be able to see him from behind the mirror. See, you did not prove there was no mirror. Well, Mr. Wright, let's hear your answer. Yes, Your Honor. Reason behind all the contradictions in Mr. Kudo's is simple. Mr. Kudo made a mistake. The ear doctor made a mistake. Or the victim was a phony. Okay, so we don't have any proof that the eardrum was a mistake, and we're pretty confident that Mr. Kudo was correct. And we still need there to be more than one person at that table. The only thing that makes sense to me is that the victim was a phony. This case is riddled with contradictions, yet there is one very simple answer that clears them all up. And what is it? The incident Mr. Kudo witnessed and the incident the victim experienced were two completely different events. What? Yes, the victim that Mr. Kudo saw wasn't Mr. Glenn Elg at all. It was an imposter, a phony pretending to be Mr. Elg. Obviously, unlike the victim, there was nothing wrong with the imposter's left eardrum. That's how he ended up wearing the earpiece in his left ear by mistake. It makes the most sense. Order in the court. Settle down or I'll clear the courtroom. Quiet, Gramps. Why don't you clear out of here, huh? What did you say? Trite. Are you saying that what Mr. Kudo saw was a setup? Yes. Someone pretended to be Glenn Elk and acted the whole coffee poisoning. All for the express purpose of creating a witness out of one Mr. Victor Kudo. Get real, Trite. Why would anyone want to do that? Isn't it obvious? The thing Mr. Kudo was most insistent about in his testimony was the serving girl brought him a Javachino, but she put something in it. That's the serving girl right there in the defendant's chair. I remember her well. It's so hard to believe, but there was one and only one reason to show Mr. Kudo this fake poisoning. To show Maggie Bird in the act of poisoning the coffee. Are you insinuating that the waitress in the old man's story was a fake as well? It's true that there was no other customers in the time of the restaurant. In the restaurant at the time, but it's also true that the chef was there. He would have noticed what was happening. That's right. Well, witness? Her restaurant really was the scene of such theatrics. You would have known about it, correct? Oh la la, this is most difficult for me. Yes, is what he was trying to say. No, it's quite simple. All you have to do is testify. You are under oath, after all. Was there, in fact, a phony at Tresbian that day? The defense demands that Mr. Armstrong tell the whole truth about what happened. The defense's request for additional testimony is accepted. You will accurately explain, in detail, the events in the restaurant that day. We got you, I think, maybe. La victime, Monsieur Elks, he came to my restaurant alone. I remember the old man arrived not too long after him. There were no other customers. When he got word he won the lottery, Monsieur Elk became very excited. It was approximately 5 minutes later that the poisoning occurred. I needed time. None. There was no time for the phony to do the acting. I needed an exact time. So, just so we're clear, there was no mirror in the restaurant after all. Just Je vous demande pardon. I probably quite messed that up, but I have no clue what that says. Forgive me, Your Honor. I lied because I wanted this mess to be cleared up quickly. That just added more trouble. What you have just done is commit perjury, Mr. Armstrong. I'll describe how to punish you later. I will decide how to punish you later. For now, we will hear your cross-examination. Mr. Wright, if you please. He took that perjury charge a bit too well. Well, if he's in prison, he can't be hassled by Tiger. But I'm guessing he'll be in more serious trouble after this cross-examination. Let's see. Let's save. I think the main thing here will be the time in which everything occurred. Was he alone at his table as well? Mas, oui. I saw him from the kitchen. Yeah, the defendant, Miss Bird, remembers it differently. She swears there was another man at the victim's table. Ha. Unfortunately for you, Trite. Yesterday's witness also testified that the victim was alone. You know, seeing as you squirm like that reminds me of a certain coffee's bittersweet bite. What kind of coffee has he been drinking? Probably Irish. It's not coffee, it's love. It's love that's bittersweet. Hearing Maya say that makes her seem wise all of a sudden. I think it's the vodka or whiskey that he sneaks into his coffee. I remember that old man arrived not too long after him. By old man, you mean Victor Kudo, correct? Oui. He comes often for my special coffee. No, he doesn't. I drank your coffee once, Mr. Armstrong. It's special. I'll give you that. It's worth a sip just for the experience. Oh, you make me so happy, Monsieur. You are most welcome any time. I said it was worth one sip, and nothing more. So old Mr. Kudo arrived at the restaurant around the same time as the victim. Maybe I should ask about his arrival in more detail. What time was it? Out of curiosity, about what time was it when Mr. Kudo arrived? Oh, no, I cannot remember, Monsieur. Believe we were told by a witness yesterday. The crime was reported at 2:25 p.m. by a kind of scary old man. Doesn't that perhaps jog your memory, witness? The incident happened about 20 minutes after he arrived. So the victim must have arrived between 2 p.m. and 2:10, no? No, it doesn't. So the victim must have arrived, which would have been after the millionaire thing. So no, it doesn't. Just after 2, huh? Thank you for your help in jogging my memory, Monsieur. You are wonderful. Ha ha ha. I can't sit here all the time and do nothing now, can I? The time of day will be added to the witness's testimony. Oui, Monsieur Judge. Everything I do it for you. Merci bien. That's French, isn't it? I'm glad at least one person is in a good mood. He's even humming a song to himself. Just after 2, there were no other customers. When we got word, just after 2 p.m. Which, that's impossible. I saved this, didn't I? I don't remember. I hope I did. Because this is where I'm going to be like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm afraid I finally got you, Mr. Armstrong. Quoi? What do you mean? At the time in question, the victim was listening to the radio with his earpiece. The show he was listening to was Millionaire Radio. Each week, they announced the winning numbers of the $500,000 lottery ticket. Oui, that must be the show Monsieur Eric was listening to. I can't see any problem with this testimony, Mr. Wright. I wonder. You say the victim arrived at your restaurant after 2 p.m., correct? Oui, I am sure of it. I remember it perfectly now. I know it was that time because I had just finished serving the lunch menu. Get to the point, Trite, if you have one. That show is broadcast live at 1:30 p.m., and it claims to be the most thrilling 10 minutes of your life. It's on the air at 1:30? Now, supposedly, the victim made some noise when it was announced that he had won. And yet, I don't believe his cry of joy could have occurred after 2 p.m. because the show had already finished more than 30 minutes earlier by that point in time. This victim we've been told about has done nothing but the impossible. Listening to the radio with a ruptured eardrum, catching a show that was already over, there's only one conclusion you can draw from these facts. This victim was an imposter, acting out the poisoning 30 minutes after the real murder. Yes, there were 2 Glen Elgs in Tresbian that day. The real Glen Egg, now dead, having been poisoned by the real killer, and the phony Glen Elg acting out the events for Mr. Kudo to witness. It certainly seems that way. I mean, if that wasn't the case, how could you explain the time discrepancy? I'm sure Godot has a way. Quite a performance, Trite. You were almost on a roll. But sadly, you lack the rock-hard foundation of rhythm to build your song. What is this, Music Theory 101? Let's recap. According to your imaginative theory, it's now just after 2 p.m. The phony Elg is performing a play for the benefit of Mr. Kudo. How do you explain, then, where the real Glen Elg is? I don't believe I have to spell this out for the court. However, At the time, the Ren Glen Elk was already dead. That's certainly the obvious conclusion. Exactly. Thank you, Trite. That's exactly what I was hoping you would say. But what? Now, I presume you can prove this theory of yours. Can you explain where the missing corpse went to? The kitchen. The missing corpse? According to the old man's testimony, there was only one other customer there. If that customer was the phone in Glen Oak, then where did the killer hide the body of the real victim? The kitchen. The prosecution has a valid point, Mr. Wright. If your theory is to stand up to examination by the court, you must provide us with proof by answering the prosecution's question. Where did the killer hide the body? Yes, Your Honor. No conjecture, Trite. Let's hear some facts for once. Show the court a piece of evidence that proves where the body was hidden. Evidence? What's with the intense pressure in here all of a sudden? The medication being found in the kitchen. Thought I had him with that contradiction. But he's turned it all around and backed me into a corner instead. Well, Mr. Wright, the court will now hear the defense's theory and evidence. First, where was the body of the real Mr. Elk concealed? It was inside Tresbian. It would have been too dangerous to take the body outside. Obviously, the body must have been hidden somewhere inside Tresbian. Interesting. But where could a body have been hidden inside a restaurant? Perhaps you would care to show the court on these plans, Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor. The exact location where the body was concealed is inside Tresbian is over here. Body was hidden here. I see. Nice supposition. But the real question is, can you back it up? Where's the evidence that proves the body was hidden in that location? The medication. Mr. Armstrong, do you recognize this bottle? Non. I've never seen that ugly bottle before in my life. I only use the best bottles, monsieur. The highest quality only for me. Where was that bottle found, Mr. Wright? Interestingly enough, Your Honor, it was found in the kitchen of Tresbian. Eh? Quoi? But I only ever use these bottles for my aromatherapy oils. But this bottle doesn't contain aromatherapy oil, Mr. Armstrong. No, it contains a medication. What kind of medication? I'm sure everyone remembers, don't they? That Mr. Elk visited an, this word again, otolaryngological clinic before going to the restaurant, I'm pretty sure it said. You can't be serious. The defense had the contents of the bottle analyzed, and I have the lab results here. The contents of the bottle matched the prescription that was given to Mr. Elk. Glen Elk's murderer hid the body in the restaurant kitchen, at which time this bottle fell out of the victim's pocket. Mr. Armstrong, when the incident occurred, didn't you say you were in the kitchen? Mon Dieu. Yes, you know what I'm about to say. Was it you who hit the victim's body? You did a fine job pretending to defend my client, Maggie Bird. However, you were setting her up to take the fall behind the poor girl's back. Non. Yeah. Order. This is an extraordinary development. Witness, did you murder Mr. Glen Elk? Never. I could not do such an horrible thing. What? What's up with Godot? Dude, you're going to break your esophagus. Mr. Godot? The bitterness. Every time I get lied to, I always down a mug of coffee. That's one of my rules. Do you have the slightest idea how many cups you've had by now? Probably close to 17. But wait, there's probably another court segment, so that's probably not true. Then I like to do the same to the person who lied to me. I like to take them down with my empty cup. Listen up, chef. How about a brand new favor in your ear, my H-deficient friend? Je vous demande pardon. Please, you must hear me out. It is a trap. Listen to me, por favor. That was Spanish. Yo hablo español, Mr. Armstrong. And por favor is Spanish. Exactly. I'm only going to ask you once. Did you do it? Non. No, non. Absolutely none. Let's hear it. You've got one shot. Right, Gramps? Witness, the court will permit you the chance to make one final statement. If you lie under oath again, Mr. Godot's coffee mug awaits you, as does my gavel. Oui, it is clear. Why do they always say in the movies? I got a bad feeling about this. It's probably still Tiger. He probably agreed to cover the loan had he done this. Very well. Begin your final testimony, Mr. Armstrong. It is true. I hid the body in the kitchen. A man forced me to do it. I had no choice. I had to go along with them because there was a reason why I could not refuse. But I did not kill him. I swear it. You must believe me. I do. You were forced? By who? I cannot say, or I will be erased. Let's try a different question, then. When Mr. Elk died, was he really the only person at his table? There was... Exactly. There was another man. I knew it. Maggie was telling the truth. You may cross-examine the witness now, Mr. Wright. There's just one more thing I need to do. Gotta break this guy and get him to tell us the name of the real killer. So somehow get him to say that Tiger is the killer, right? Let's save. It is true I hid the body in the kitchen. Did you carry the body yourself? Oui, I carried him, and I carried Maggie too. Maggie too. When she saw the victim collapse, she fainted. I could not leave her there. But why did you hide the bodies? So that he could so we could have the fake waitress do it. Wait, Viola. It would have had to have been Viola because she would be the only one that would work with Tiger. But now that we've destroyed their relationship, maybe she's willing to testify? What man? Who was he? None, I cannot say. I fear for my life. He's really scared. You'll just have to put the words in his mouth, Nick. Yeah, you're right. If you won't tell me, I'll tell him. But why would you go along with this man? I had to go along with him because there was a reason why I could not refuse. Nope. Crap, sorry. I meant to show evidence. Was it this man right here? Oops. Let's end this dance of ring around the rosy, Mr. Armstrong. This is the man that you've been referring to. Ah, who is that? I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. Oh, I don't know, maybe a month ago in this very courtroom? This man is Furio Tigri. He's the manager of the loan office called Tenderlinder. There's no point trying to hide the truth anymore, Mr. Armstrong. I know you couldn't go against Mr. Tiger, at least not while he had this on you. The loan of $500,000. A $500,000 loan from a black market loan shark. And you had no way of paying it back, did you? That's why you were forced to do anything this man told you. Oui, it is as you say. Mr. Armstrong. That Tiger, he told me he was going to use my restaurant for a business rendezvous. On the day in question, he was meeting the victim to demand that he repay his loan. I don't know why it happened like that. I just did what he told me to do. I had no choice. I carried the body and la unconscient Maggie out of the dining room and into the kitchen. After that, I just tried to forget what I had seen. I think we can now safely say that the man who forced your hand was Mr. Fiorio Tegri. I'm probably pronouncing this all wrong, but let's just go with it. I do have one further question for you, Mr. Armstrong. The poison and the lottery ticket that were found in the defendant's apron pocket, was that your doing as well? No, I knew nothing about that. Making it look like it was Maggie who had done it. I was not. It is despicable. Mr. Godot, you will summon this Fiora Tegri as a witness. I doubt that can be arranged today, so we will adjourn for now. Proceedings will continue tomorrow. Unless he's already here. 30 minutes. What? Trial will go on. I'll see to it myself. I need half an hour to get that guy on the stand. Not a minute more. How the? Don't sit back and relax yet, Trite. No one knows if that chef is really telling the truth or not. This trial could still go either way. Very well. Your request is granted, Mr. Godot. We will resume once Mr. Tigri is ready to take the stand. Until then, court is adjourned for a 30-minute recess. Alright, so it was Tiger who did it, I think. We all kind of got that. That was the reason why he pretended to be Phoenix, in order to get himself away from the crime. I'm just... like, I can pretty much see it happening where Viola was the fake waitress, he was the fake leg elk since he was wearing a hat, and just he was recognized only by his newfangled spectacles. So in a way that is quite obviously what it has to be. Unless thing is, there was actually poison, and if Tiger was not near Maggie, I mean, there's still the possibility that Viola tried to kill Tiger, but it just mixed up anyways. I mean, I think that's still a possibility, but it's still more probable that Tiger is our killer. And then he's our killer, dead stop. But we'll have to see next time, and we will. I'll see you guys later. Bye!